करते हैं।
जी 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 मैडम, नहीं थैंक यू वेरी मच, और माय रिगार्ड्स टू ऑनरेबल वीसी सर।
वीसी सर तो शायद अभी कहीं व्यस्त हैं, तो
अच्छा,
वीसी सर ने शायद नहीं ज्वाइन किया है।
कोई बात नहीं, अगर सर ज्वाइन करते हैं दिस विल बी एन एडेड फीदर टू आवर कैप।
जी 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 चलिए, ओके जी।
I think we have received our speaker. Madam Sutton has joined. Let's
Yes.
welcome her.
Yes, I have.
Hello, madam.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon and good evening from India.
And good morning from Philadelphia.
Yeah, welcome to this galaxy of intellectuals gathering here to discuss about setting up a global office in the campus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I hope you will be able to present your screen sharing. There will be no issue.
I hope.
Can you hear me
I
well?
think so.
Okay.
Dr. Pani, is my voice clear?
Yeah. Clear, madam. Yes, madam. How are you, madam?
I'm fine.
Yes. Thank you very much for being here. And we are expecting a very insightful session today.
So very good morning to all of you.
Yes, madam has joined.
Yes.
Madam, we can't see you. Ab dekh paye. Yes, madam.
Okay. So I am Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General AIU. Aparna, we were together at USA.
Yes, absolutely. More than 10 years ago, it was the
Yes,
first full National Administrator Seminar. Yes.
Yes.
Nice to see you again.
So Susan, how are you? Susan, how are you? Are you not able to hear me?
I think your
I can
voice is
hear
a
you.
bit
I can hear
low.
you now.
Okay, it's slow. Okay. From our side, it is 100%. Now is it better?
Yes, ma'am. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. Thank you, Professor Harold Thomas. How are you?
Just fine, ma'am.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon.
Madam, I had shared the link and brochure, everything with the Honorable President, sir. Will he be joining?
I haven't spoken to him. Did you speak to him?
No, I even didn't speak to him. If you can have a word just.
So it's too late.
I have sent him a message over WhatsApp. Sir,
Yes.
will be happy if you can somehow join for a few minutes. Hello. No, sir. गिरीश कहो, गिरीश साहब को भेज दीजिए, बट राइट नाउ आई एम एंकरिंग ए शो. मैं इस समय एक मीटिंग में हूँ. हाँ, डॉक्टर रमा के पास भेज दीजिए, बिकॉज आई एम बिजी नाउ. So, ma'am, we are 1 minute fast. So, shall we start formally, or we will wait for Honorable President, sir?
I think we should start in time. I am not getting his phone.
Okay, fine. So then let's start. Shall we, ma'am?
Sure, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Respected Secretary General, Association of Indian Universities, Dr. Pankaj Mittal, madam. Today's two speakers, Madam Dr. Susan Sutton from USA and Madam Professor Aparna Raiprol from University of Hyderabad. Distinguished delegates, those who have logged into the program event today, webinar today, Honorable Vice Chancellors, I can see a few faces. First of all, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you for being with us today for deliberating and discussing about going global, the significance of a global partnership office for internationalization of Indian institutions. In fact, this is a sequel of a series of webinars we have planned under a consortium called Indian Network for Internationalization of Higher Education. As a matter of fact, since the new education policy of Government of India has given enormous importance to the internationalization, and before that also lots of movements in the field of internationalization of higher education has been witnessed in our country. We at AIU plan to facilitate the internationalization process, especially connecting the higher education institutions through a consortium. And the consortium was established 2 years back. The name of the consortium is Indian Network for Internationalization of Higher Education, which is a consortium of universities and other higher education institutions in the country, which primarily aims at facilitating the internationalization of higher education in terms of networking, collaboration in teaching, research, mobility of students, faculty, exchange programs, and so many things. And this includes many activities, diversified activities under its ambit. So this is a pioneering initiative of Association of Indian Universities in the direction of promoting the internationalization of higher education, and by providing a structured platform to the universities and other higher education institutions dedicated to the internationalization of higher education. And INHI, as a part of the INHI series, we have been organizing different activities. And the earlier also, we had organized one of the activities that is called for bringing quality in publications, Think Check Summit. It was part of our event. This is the second webinar in the sequel, and we understood the importance of, in fact, hand-holding our partner universities, guiding our universities, how to establish a international office, students' office, or any office to manage the international affairs in the campus. So therefore, today's webinar, and we are grateful that quite a good number of participants and delegates they have logged in to listen our speakers and also take part in the process. And to begin with, first of all, I request Honorable Secretary General Madam Dr. Pankaj Mittal to please share her introductory address about the webinar today. Before that, let me just introduce the profile of Madam Secretary General. In fact, she doesn't need an elaborate introduction because she is a popular figure today in Indian higher education landscape. Many of you might be witnessing Madam's lectures and Madam's presence in most of the vibrant platforms of higher education today. Dr. Mittal, in fact, is the second Women Secretary General in the history of 98 years of Association of Indian Universities. A Fulbright scholar, Dr. Mittal has been holding many eminent positions in different institutions. Prior to AIU Secretary General, she was the additional secretary to UGC, and before that, she had contributed as the Vice Chancellor to BPS Women's University, Haryana, Sonipat, Haryana. Madam has a lot of awards, and she is a recipient of, along with the Fulbright Nehru Scholarship Grant, she is also recipient of the President of India Award in 2017 for digital initiatives in higher education. Madam holds a doctoral degree in agricultural statistics, and also honorary doctorate degree, honoris causa, from Karnataka State Women's University, Bijapur, Karnataka. And as Madam herself says, that in fact, she has been the pivotal axis of many of the programs today we are organizing in AIU. And really, she doesn't need a very lengthy introduction. She's very popular. I request Madam to kindly bless us with your wisdom.
Thank you, Dr. Pani. Thanks for a generous introduction. A very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank Susan and Aparna for taking up this cause, and thanks to Dia, who has arranged who had spoken to both of you and who has arranged this lecture. She herself is not here because she had some urgent meeting. So why we are doing this and what is the benefit of the universities who are joining today, that I will explain I mean briefly only, so that we have more chance to listen to Susan and Aparna. So as you all know that India has a new education policy. In 2020, we had a new education policy. And this is a third education policy. And by and large, I think this is the policy out of all the three policies, this is the policy in which maximum impetus has been given to internationalization of higher education. So policy is focusing on internationalization of higher education to the extent that we are not now allowing foreign campuses on Indian universities. We are allowing Indian universities to go abroad and set up their campuses. We are talking of joint degrees, dual degrees, which again was being talked for a long time, but we were not able to get it approved from the regulatory authorities. And very important thing is the policy says that every university should be establishing an international students office, because without an international students office, the universities will not be able to take care of the international students at one place. Therefore, it is very important that the international students office should be there in the universities. The University Grants Commission has also issued regulations or guidelines and sort of a brief to all the universities that international students office should be established. But many of the universities, because we are an association, the biggest association of the world, the second oldest association of the world, when we talk to our 940 members, many of them, they tell us, we don't know how to establish such an office. We don't know what will be the structure of this office. We don't know how we should be going about, what should be the objective, what should be the purpose, how to operationalize this particular office. Therefore, we thought that we should be holding a webinar to facilitate the universities on how to establish an international students office. But when we were talking of international students office, it occurred to us that international students office will look after only the students. But in the universities, when we think of promoting internationalization, it has to be not only the students in the university, but many more things: partnerships, faculty exchange, student exchange, many more things. So therefore, we thought that we should call it an Office of Global Affairs, or Office of International Studies, or International Affairs, not only limited to students, but to all the activities of internationalization which are going to happen in the universities. So therefore, we have requested Dr. Aparna and Dr. Susan to speak to our universities and tell them that how International Students Office or International Global Affairs Office looks like. That is why you're here, and that is why all the universities are here. I'm thankful to all the universities who are joining us in large numbers, and slowly the numbers is increasing. Right now we have 75, but I'm sure in say 5-10 minutes from now, there will be many more universities. So to promote internationalization of higher education, AIU is also taking some steps. For example, one under which this program is being done is a network called Indian Network of International Higher Education. We did realize at AIU that almost every university has a network of international higher education, like NAFSA, like OPRIAL, but India does not have such a network. So we took it upon ourselves to establish an Indian network. We call it INHI in short, Indian Network of International Higher Education, in which we are doing many programs to educate the universities on how to promote internationalization. And this is one of those programs in that series of programs which we are holding. And the reason for establishing such a program was, such a network was that many times in India, like India is a large country, we have more than 1,100 universities, we have more than 40,000 colleges. Many times there are universities who have intent to do internationalization, but they don't know how to go about, whom to talk to, whom to partner with. How do we start internationalization? What should be the beginning point? Therefore, we established the Indian Network of International Higher Educators, where we can handhold the universities, especially the ones who are wanting to do internationalization, but are not able to do it because of the lack of the know-how. So this network is a network which will help all the universities in India to promote internationalization on their campuses, be it in terms of partnerships, be it in terms of semester exchange, research partnerships, student exchange, teacher exchange, any type of internationalization we are going to promote in this particular network. Similarly, we are also promoting collaboration between Indian and foreign universities, and for this we have specially made one portal called AIU Collaboration Portal. So what happens in foreign universities mostly is that many times they want to collaborate with an Indian university, but they don't come to know that which university to talk to, because from the say internet they can get the list of universities which are in top 100 NIRF ranking, which is the India ranking, or they come to know the NAC score, which is the Accreditation Agency of India. But in a particular subject, in a particular area, which university is good, they don't come to know. Therefore, we have established an AIU collaboration portal. It is available on the AIU website. So on the portal, if any foreign university or even an Indian university writes that I want to collaborate in quantum physics. So if they write quantum physics, down will come the list of the universities which are good in quantum physics and which want to collaborate in quantum physics, along with their credentials in terms of, say, facilities or research work or the faculty. Everything will come so that the universities find it easier to collaborate. So these are some of the activities we are doing, apart from, say, making the equivalence of degrees from foreign universities to Indian universities. Equivalence, we are making it easier based on the credit rather than the years of or the duration of the study. So all those activities we are doing at our level, but INHI is one of our prime objectives, and under INHI we are doing this program in which we are, this is the first, but there will be many more such webinars in which we will be trying to advise the universities on how to open an international office, how to enter into partnerships, how to attract foreign students, how to set up research collaboration. So like this, there will be a number of activities. So do become a member of INHI, because if you become a member of INHI, it is easier to approach you. We are very shortly, on 28th only, if there are universities, say, in and around Delhi, they can come for a program in British Council, where BUILA is coming. BUILA is a counterpart of INHI, counterpart of NAFSA in Britain. So BUILA is coming and they will be talking to our members. So we are holding a number of programs. This is one such program. So once again, thanks to Susan, thanks to Aparna, who has been a great friend for, say, last 11, 12 years. And welcome to this particular webinar, which I think you will find very, very useful. Thank you very much. Over to Dr. Pani.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. In fact, no introductory address can be so succinct and so brief than today's. And thank you so much for nicely explaining the background of INHI and the series of webinars we have planned to do and we are doing. Thank you so much. Our speaker, in fact, before going to speaker, just I wanted to share one thing, that is, in the form of a small and tender seed, we have planted Indian Network for Internationalization of Higher Education. And in future times to come, we are expecting these tender seed to grow and emerge as one of the majestic trees and bringing most of the higher education institutions aspiring to go for internationalization under its ambit. So with this, and again, once again, promoting the Indian Network for Internationalization of Higher Education, today, let me present our first speaker before you, Dr. Susan Buck-Sutton, and she is an independent consultant on global learning and engagement in higher education sector with 40 years of experience as faculty member and international administrator at 2 different institutions. Recently, she superannuated as a senior advisor for international initiative at Brian Mayer College. Sutton is also Emerita Associate Vice President of International Affairs and Emerita Chancellor of a Professor of Anthropology at Indiana University. She is currently a fellow at IAE's Center on International Partnership and Senior Associate at ACE's Center for International and Global Initiatives. Dr. Sutton has particular expertise concerning international partnerships, global learning, strategic institutional development, and the nature of institutional global citizenship, both in the United States and abroad. She has given numerous presentations and workshops on such kind of workshops on diversified topics, both nationally and internationally. Sutton has also developed workshops, research reports, strategic plans, and web materials for Nationals program to encourage partnership between United States institutions in Ethiopia, Sudan, Thailand, Japan, India, Indonesia, Croatia, Greece, and many more countries. Dr. Sutton has a very, very long and rich profile, and without missing any time, losing any time, let me request Dr. Sutton to address the gathering so that we can reap the benefit of our experience as an international educational administrator. Dr. Sutton, may I request you to please share your word of wisdom?
Yes, Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. I'm delighted to be with you today to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is the internationalization of higher education through international partnerships, etc. I will focus, as you have asked, on the offices, the administrative structures, the management structures that enable institutions of higher education to move forward on their international goals. And I have my slides that I will put up in just 1 minute, have focused on the particular aspect of administering international programs that has to do with partnerships between universities in one country, let us say India, and universities in another country, for example, the United States, where I am based. But I will now, with my comments, I will go beyond the slides to talk about international offices even more broadly, now that I've heard the breadth of what you are attempting to accomplish with your network, which I think, let me say, it is wonderful to hear that such a network has been formed in India, that will indeed give universities in the United States a wonderful entry point for their work with Indian universities. Now, I believe it is time for me to share my screen. Am I correct? I will do that then with my fingers crossed. Okay. Let me try it one more time. Okay, it's saying I'm not being allowed to share the screen. If it is possible, does someone have my slides? And
Dr. Pani, can you share it?
Yeah, I can share, madam, but we don't have her slides.
No, she had
Madam?
sent it to us.
One second. Let me ask Dr. Sandeep to share. Just 1 second.
You
Let's
give her
see.
sharing rights. You don't have, Susan, you
Okay,
don't have
I
sharing
think-
rights? Yes, you have.
No, I do. No, I do.
Yes, you have. Yes.
Okay. I do. All right. And can everyone see the PowerPoint? Is it too
Yes,
big?
yes, yes. It's visible. Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, it's very visible for me, so I don't know if it's too big, but in any event, so I will be talking about, as we have said, the significance of an office for the internationalization of, in this case, Indian institutions. So let's see. Good. My goal in talking for a few minutes about this, and I could talk forever, but my goal is to present the recent development of international partnership offices in US universities for you to use as the basis for exploring what aspects of what we do in the United States might be relevant to what you are attempting to do in India. As I said, the slides focus on offices that are concerned with creating actual institution-to-institution partnerships, but I will add more general comments about international offices in general. Okay, now, in doing this, I will be referring to 3 sources of data that I think you might find interesting. On the left of this slide, the American Council on Education, of which now in my retirement from university life, I work with these national organizations. So one of them is the American Council on Education, which is a large umbrella organization for US colleges and universities. Every 5 years, ACE does a survey of the state of internationalization at US colleges and universities. The most recent edition came out just last fall, so this is very up to date. You can, it's free, it's online, and there you will see all kinds of statistics concerning how US institutions, colleges and universities approach internationalization, including what kinds of offices they have. So I'll be referring to that source of information. I'll also be referring to information from the Institute of International Education, another organization. They largely oversee the Fulbright program and hundreds of other programs like Fulbright. And every year they do a survey of student mobility, student and scholar mobility between the US and other countries. Again, that information is available online. You might find it useful. And then the third source is on the right-hand side of this slide from the Association of the International Association of Universities, which is a global organization to which universities around the world can belong, and they do every 5 years a survey of the state of internationalization. So that set of data covers the whole world, as you will see. Oops, there we go, in a minute. Okay, so let me begin with a table from that last source that I talked about, the International Association of Universities, and their most recent survey, which was published in 2019. And one of the questions IAU asked in that survey is, what are the most important benefits of internationalization to your institution, to your university? And then they collected hundreds and hundreds of responses from around the world. They then analyze them in terms of world region, as you see in this chart, this table, and according to what was the number one most important benefit that universities felt they received from internationalization, the number two benefit, most important benefit, the number three by region of the world. So what you see here is that across the board, with the exception of North America, where it is number two, but every other region of the world, the number one most important benefit of internationalization, as it is understood in recent years, is enhanced international cooperation and capacity building. So it's this ability, as I believe we've already heard today, this ability to collaborate with institutions in other parts of the world and other countries and other nations. That is the number one benefit, out of which flows student mobility, scholars mobility, research, curriculum development, institutional development, etc. It's number one in all of the world, number two in North America, which you can read as Canada and the United States. You will see that for North America, the number one, the top one, is increased international awareness or deeper engagement with global issues by our students. And I can certify that is true. If you ask US universities what's most important to them about internationalization, they will tell you student learning, because we're very concerned that our students develop an understanding of the broader world. But still, partnerships, international partnerships, are the main driver in internationalization efforts. What's so interesting to me is that as recently as 2005, enhanced international cooperation and capacity building did not appear on this list. It's really new. It's within this century. It's within the last 15, 20 years that has moved forward for the whole world. And the United States is no exception to this recent growth in partnerships, becoming sort of the more and more the core of what internationalization is about. For US universities, it all began about literally 100 years ago, 1923. The University of Delaware and the Sorbonne in France started the first what was called Junior Year Abroad program, where students from US colleges and universities, in this case, the University of Delaware, would spend their third year of undergraduate study at a partner institution in another country where they would perfect their language skills. And this started with France. What you see there is a photograph of students going over on a ship. Of course, that's what would have happened in the 1920s. So that started things off for the US, but not too many US colleges or universities followed suit. 1984, the American Council on Education did a survey that said most higher education institutions in the United States still had no international partnerships. If you see the abbreviations HEI, that means higher education institution. IP means international partnership. That is 1984. In 2012, just 10 years ago, the American Council on Education Mapping Survey, 31%, a third of US colleges and universities still had no partnerships. 21% were starting them for the first time, and the remainder were intensifying their partnership work. The most recent survey, it came out last year, the data are from 2021, 28% of US colleges and universities still have no partnerships, but they're looking to develop them. Just in case you're interested, here are the top 10 nations in which US colleges and universities have their international partnerships. And this is percentage of universities colleges and universities in different categories that have partnerships with these nations. In the United States, we divide our institutions of higher education into according to how many degrees they give it at a certain level. So doctoral institutions have to give at least I forget, 20, I think, 20 to 30 doctoral degrees every year. Master's institutions have to give a certain number of master's degrees. Baccalaureate are the undergraduate institutions. Associates are the 2-year institutions. But you'll see that China is our #1 partnership in internationalization, but India is #9. I hope you're noticing that. And the doctoral institutions are out in front in partnering with Indian institutions, but the others are joining in as well. It's an interesting list. Most of our partners are either in Asia or in Europe. It's striking that there are none from Latin America in that top list there, and something that we're thinking about. So partnerships, this international engagement that is at the core of internationalization, have been growing for some time, but when the pandemic, when COVID hit 3 years ago, we all expected that the partnerships and international activity would decrease. What was so surprising, at least from the US point of view, was that actually many partnerships became more active over the last 3 years. They became more active during the pandemic. And that was because the partnerships had to respond to the pandemic, to students being in another country, or to the fact that they had students from another country on campus and needed to support them, to sending medical supplies back and forth. Partnerships, strong partnerships, really rose to the fore during the pandemic. And over the last 3 years, therefore, have led many of us to question much that we have taken for granted about international partnerships and how we manage them. And as I said, strong partnerships rose to the challenges posed by the pandemic, and they unleashed new partnership forms and a real burst of collaborative creativity. Being locked down as we were, unable to travel, both demanded and gave more time for us to communicate with our partners. It was so interesting. Colleges and universities in the United States found that they were communicating more because with their partners than they had when they relied simply on trips or travel to communicate. We also all came to understand that the global nature of COVID meant we had a great deal to learn from each other. We could not solve the pandemic alone in isolation. Partnerships dramatically increased their use of online collaboration, what could be called virtual exchange, or VE, or COIL, collaborative online international learning. And this, in the increased use of virtual exchange or COIL, had this strange but wonderful effect of flattening the resource differentials between partners. And as I'll give you some quotes in just a minute about what this meant for partners in the global South. moving to a more virtual kind of partnership also enabled more faculty, more staff, more students to engage with partners and spread the benefits of international engagement to more individuals. The move toward JEDI, or DEI in the United States, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and decolonization more broadly, also revealed this moment of reflection and thinking about the world as a whole over the last three years. Those movements led us to understand that we didn't have our partnerships evenly distributed across nations or academic disciplines or types of students or types of institutions, that there were still too many being left out of all of this. Here are the two quotes that these slides can be distributed. The two quotes that indicate that the move, one from Brazil, one from South Africa, but indicate that the move from academic mobility to virtual mobility enabled a more active role for universities in the global South, a more balanced internationalization, and an exchange of information rather than people led to greater equality and mutual benefit. We learned a lot by going virtual. So in short, the last 3 years have made clear that partnerships should be more than physical mobility. They can withstand time and turmoil. They are essential for the collaboratively built knowledge we need now. They should be expanded to include more students at more higher education institutions in more nations. They come in many more forms than we have historically been using. They're possible even for institutions with few financial resources, as long as they have an internet connection. And they're witnessing this great moment of expansion. And they're leading us to measure institutional impact, not only in terms of what benefits our own institutions, but what moves all of us forward together. So unfortunately, too many partnerships still end up not doing that much. The strong ones are doing a lot, but we still have lots of file cabinets full of MOUs, memoranda of understanding, that are paper only. They were signed, but they have no activity. Dormant, that is sleeping. They once had activity, but no longer. And or very lopsided. One side is getting more. One partner is getting more than the other. So we have learned a lot about, we're learning a lot about how to make all of this work. And this will get to the offices very quickly. I'm going to speed along here for the sake of time. But we've been making mistakes in forming partnerships and in international engagement, I think, because this is new territory for all of us around the world. Partnerships have until recently been viewed as a minor tactic. We don't fully understand, haven't fully grasped their power until recently, and left to individual initiatives or the occasional research project or development project, and overlaid with the continuing residue of colonialism, etc. So that's led to a lot of activities in terms of international engagement. They're not really very helpful, like freewheeling, too casual an approach to signing MOUs, too little oversight or coordination or planning, too top down. That is something that the president or chancellor or rector wants, but no one else has even heard of at the institution, or too bottom up, something that a single faculty member wants, but has no idea of how to get started or spread it to more. Signing MOUs too quickly when you don't have the resources to support them. Whoops, I jumped. I don't quite know. Let's see if I can go back. Yes, good. Signing them too quickly, or someone was interested in the partnership for a while, but then wasn't concerned about sustaining the partnership over time and left, and there's nothing to pick up on what should be happening. Little insight or little attention to risk management or ethical standards, poor communications. That's probably the number one reason that these kinds of relationships fail, is poor communications, very little attention shown to relationship building, or one-sided decision-making among the partners. no mechanisms for making decisions, resolving difficulties, disagreements, a lot of roadblocks in terms of institutional procedures, lack of commitment, integrity, transparency by one or both partners, and inadequate tracking of what's going on. All of this can harm what we want to do in internationalization through partnership. So as a result, many US institutions for the first time are becoming really strategic about developing individual partnerships or their overall, what we might call portfolio of partnerships, that is the whole set of partnerships they have. They're becoming more strategic about it, not just signing an MOU at the first moment, at the first meeting, but really thinking about what it is they want to do, what the institution wants to do, what resources it has to do it, how to provide the adequate framework and guidance for this work, how to enable the institutions to make good on their promises, how to have a broad impact across the institution and engage a wide range of faculty, staff, and students, how to sustain this work over time, ensure safety and compliance with rules, regulations, laws, and how to get everybody at the institution on the same page, more focused, less haphazard, and thereby unlock the full potential of partnerships. Or put this another way, we're recognizing that institutions as well as individuals have a stake in international work and partnerships. It's not something that any one of us can do alone. It's something in which institutions, the university itself, have a stake. They provide supports in various ways, and it's something that institutions need to organize themselves to support. For the sake of time, I'll go on. And whether this is a continuum of partnership types, from sort of on the left-hand side, individually managed relationships, faculty, staff to staff, to institutionally framed partnerships where you get multiple individuals or departments or units collaborating and working together, to partnerships that are really the big partnerships for an institution, in which, for example, when I was the head of international programs for Indiana University, we had several partnerships where we could say that every college within the university was involved in that partnership. Those were the strategic ones. And so there are different levels of institutional management and support for these different types. But again, it's a continuum of partnership types in which the institution can provide that kind of support that is needed. So in organizing and setting up offices, this to do this kind of work, it's very important, but we have found in the United States, it's very important to connect all the offices and individuals who might be involved. You are setting up an office to do something, but the point of that office is to connect different units on the institute at the institution so that they can work more fully together, and also to create a person or a center or a hub, whatever you want to call it, in which everyone knows, if I want to be involved in internationalization or in international partnerships, I go there and they will help me figure out what more I need to do. Let me give an example. This is not one that I personally am involved in, but I borrowed it from the University of Kentucky. There will, if you look at the top of this slide, there will be a senior international officer holding a title such as vice president or associate vice president or vice provost for international affairs. That person will oversee an office in which there is someone. Now this goes off the chart that you're seeing because I'm expanding it a bit. That person, the senior international officer, will oversee an international partnership manager with a committee but will also, what's not on this chart, because I now fully realize the breadth of what you want me to talk about, but I can. In addition to managing international partnerships, there will be someone who manages outward student and scholar mobility and makes sure that any of the students and faculty and staff from that institution who want to go overseas can. Then there'll be another person in charge of inward student and scholar mobility that makes sure that any students, staff, faculty coming from another country are well received and supported when they come in. And there may also be an additional person who's looking at the curriculum of the institution to make sure that students are learning about the broader world so that they can become globally competent. So you would have these different units. I have focused here on the unit that has to do with partnerships. The other units would look somewhat similar. So there would be an international partnership manager, a single person, who is the person that we call the go-to person that people would come to if they're interested in partnerships. That person would be working with an international partnership committee formed from individuals from across the university who are interested in partnerships, who serve as an advisory fashion to the partnership manager. But the partnership manager would be intersecting and communicating with all these other parts of the university, with the research administration, the admissions office, human resources, the legal office, it's the technology, accreditation, all of it. But it would be the role of that partnership manager to be in touch with all of these people concerning the complexities of students and faculty going back and forth. So as I've been saying, there's now often this partnership unit within a larger international office, and you can see that it will vary, and a staff member whose sole job, primary responsibility is being that hub for partnership work. And here you can see the breakdown from the most recent mapping survey of what percentage, according to what kinds of institutions. And so if you want to start working with a US institution, or if they approach you, you will now be often working with someone called an international partnership manager or a global engagement director, director of global partnerships, or some similar title. And so this organization that I've just described, where for an international office is an attempt by US universities to bring top-down and bottom-up approaches together. It's a process, so in a way that is viewed as legitimate by all sides. As I said earlier, if internationalization initiatives, if partnership work only comes from the top, a lot of faculty will not feel motivated to be involved, at least in the US side. If it comes from the bottom, a lot of faculty will not have the expertise or the knowledge to really make that work for more than themselves, for more than a one-off project, or to make it something that really is threaded more broadly through the institution, has broader institutional impact. So the point of creating such offices and such positions is to bring top-down and bottom-up approaches together, and to connect all the different people who might be involved. The point of this organization is not to dictate what to do. It is rather to facilitate focusing the energies of the institution in a certain way, having to do with internationalization, and to create an atmosphere in which both individual partnerships and institutionally strategic ones can flourish, and recognizing that faculty will have to do a lot of the work, and they need to be supported in doing that. And also recognizing that institutions have to allocate resources in a fair and reasonable way, and providing the expertise that people need, and connecting all of this work, international work, to whatever the mission of the institution is, and the goals of the institution. And in the United States, that varies from doctoral institutions to associate degree institutions. All are valuable, all are needed in order to educate our young people. But the way they shape their offices and the kind of internationalization they carry out will differ. And so you need an office that recognizes that. Another point of having an office like this is to foster initiatives to spread international work or partnership work, international partnership work to those who have historically not had such opportunities. In the United States, for example, we are very concerned right now to reach African-American students who have not historically studied abroad in the numbers that others have. It's very, very important for us to do this at this moment in time. So that can't happen if you leave everything to individual initiative. It has to come to some kind of institutional thinking. So, whoops, well, almost done here. So, and international partnership offices increasingly do such activities as each of the points on this list. They provide expertise, workshops, materials on best practices. Here it says in partnership work, but I could say in internationalization more generally. The office will track and keep records related to this work. The office will work with individuals interested in starting new partnerships or perhaps starting to teach a new course that is internationally oriented. It will guide partnerships or other international work, guide them through the negotiation, approval, renewal processes, provide support and advice to existing partnerships. The office will guide and oversee issues of risk management, ethics, quality control, regulatory demands. In the United States, we have an awful lot of regulatory demands right now on crossing borders, et cetera. The office has a lot to do with making sure that we meet that each university meets those demands. The office will coordinate campus-wide compliance reporting requirements, publicize partnership or international successes so that they become more widely known and understood, and people become more interested in international work. The office will convene campus-wide or institution-wide conversations on partnerships or internationalization more generally. The office will identify possible new partnerships or possible new international activities and ways of expanding existing relationships or activities to include more units, more people, more students at the university. The office will find ways of bringing together existing activities that might be working in isolation, but could gain a lot more by working together. And also will identify gaps that maybe they want to fill. The office will identify and seek external funding if it is available. That is, seek grants from outside. Last but not least, the International Office or the Partnership Office serves to promote greater understanding of the value of international collaboration or international engagement to the institution. So there's a lot this is what international offices, partnership offices do in the United States, and why they are needed, and why US colleges and universities are finding the resources to create these offices and to make them work as efficiently and productively as possible. And ultimately, I think, and this is my final slide, ultimately partnership offices enable us to think about international dialogue and collaboration in new ways. And I think this is what we're all discovering, that this began in this kind of exchanges and going back and forth between the University of Delaware and the Sorbonne, let us say, began in something of a mechanical way, or what you might call a transactional or instrumental way of just exchanging people, services, resources of equivalent value. You send us 2 students, we'll send you 2 students. But we're coming to see that partnerships have this kind of international engagement carries another kind of impact as well, what you might call a generative or transformational impact, where with our colleagues around the world, we combine resources, we create platforms for mutual growth, we transform each other, we transform human knowledge and higher education more generally. So we're enabling all of this work, which these offices really stimulate, support, make happen. This is not allows institutions to understand this transformational the quality of what they are doing, and to change how we understand ourselves, the goals we consider worth pursuing, and the structures of higher education. So that is my, I'll stop sharing there. That's my brief overview. And I can go into much more detail in the Q&A, but I better turn the podium over to the next speaker.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Susan. It was a marvelous perspective on internationalization, especially mapping of the internationalization with a special reference to collaboration, capacity building, enhance international curricular structure, curriculum, enhancing profile of the university, institutional research, knowledge, productivity, benchmarking. So many things you have covered. Especially the part I liked that you discussed is the entire gamut of activities is revolving around networking, cooperation, and you also highlighted the anatomy of the international office, how it should be, how it should connect. And the beautiful part was that the international office should not be only viewed because of their transactional qualities, but it should be also viewed because of their transformative values. This is a wonderful, really, aspect that you have highlighted. Thank you so much. Our audience might be having a few questions. We will be seeking clarification right after the talk of Dr. Aparna. And I now request Dr.
Before
Aparna,
that, Susan, can we, I mean, many people are asking for your presentation. Can we share it on the AIU website?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much. I mean, people
Ma'am.
are loved it so much that
Yeah.
they're saying that if you can share it with us, so we'll put it on the, for all of you. If you want a copy of the presentation, we'll put it on the AIU website.
Ma'am, especially under the tab of INHI, where we are creating the knowledge resources, we can post this, we can upload this presentation.
This will be a very good resource for us.
Yes,
Thank you,
yes.
Dr. Susan. Very, very marvelous. I mean, it was really,
You
really
are so
very-
benevolent. Thank you for being benevolent and sharing your knowledge resources that will be giving insight to all our audience who can see it. So thank you, madam. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Professor Aparna Raiprol. And Aparna Raiprol is a professor and former head Department of Sociology, University of Hyderabad. Her areas of interest include gender studies, Indian diaspora, qualitative research methods, and urban sociology. Earlier, she was an associate professor in research methodology at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. In fact, madam also equally shares a very lengthy and rich profile. I can only explain 2-3 things about her. She was the director of the Study India program from 2009 to 14 at the University of Hyderabad and was associated with it since its inception in 1998. And she has been closely involved with its academic as well as administrative responsibilities. Madam, dear participants, may I request one of you to please, keep your microphone on switched off mode. Otherwise, it will be difficult. It's creating disturbance for others. So, Madam, Professor Aparna was the director of the Study India program from 2009 to 14 at the University of Hyderabad. And in fact, her areas of specialization and interest are Indian diaspora, sociology of gender, methodology, ethnographic study. So I request Madam Aparna Raiprol, please share your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
You can
very
put it on the
good
slideshow mode, Aparna. Just at the bottom, there's that cup sort of thing. No, just press that. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. A very good afternoon, very good evening in India to all of you. And thank you to Dr. Diya Dutt, Dr. Pankaj Mittal, and Dr. Pani for having me here. I am very happy to, follow Dr. Sutton in this evening's program because she has laid the entire landscape of what we have in the challenges of internationalization.
Dr. Ranjit, Professor Ranjit Kumar, please mute your audio. Professor Ranjit Kumar, please mute your audio.
I think the host can mute everyone.
Yeah. Can I continue?
Yes, please.
My mandate today is to talk about the Study in India program at the University of Hyderabad, with which I was involved right from its inception in 1998. And at that point of time, internationalization was happening, but it was soon after liberalization. And it began, we launched it in 1998 as a short summer program with 8 students from my alma mater, the University of Pittsburgh. And it became really a one-of-the-kind program in India. And, we had almost at its peak about 200 students in a year for different kinds of, programs, short-term programs. And it was recognized both by the UGC PIHED and the Ministry of Human Resource Development as a pioneering model for other Indian universities. And it's quite gratifying to see that other Indian universities also emulate and use, in fact, the Study in India program. The Study in India program at the University of Hyderabad was awarded the Andrew Heiskell Award for Innovation in International Education in the year 2014 by the Indian International Institute of Education, the IIE. To take you through the SIP journey, what exactly did the SIP do? The SIP was hosting short-term programs for students from different parts of the world, and it was providing international students an opportunity, to kind of experience an Indian academic environment in the classroom. And we were trying to go beyond the Orientalist colonial model, and we were offering programs which were interdisciplinary on history, politics, contemporary development, and society in contemporary India. How was this happening? It was happening in a two-way process. One was with the regular students of the university. The short-term students who were coming for the semester were being integrated into the regular curriculum of the university in the classroom. And, through a long and complex process of orientation, it was by integrating international students into the classroom, into the football field, and everywhere else. So how was this done? What was unique about the SIP? There was a flexibility in designing courses according to the interests of the students. So they were actually a wide variety of courses to choose from, and we had students coming at 3 different times of the year. In 1998, when the program started, they only came in the summer. The University of Pittsburgh actually started as a 9-week, 9-credit summer program with courses in introducing India, ethnographic approaches to Indian society, where students would take a little kind of project into the city. And the third kind of course was an independent study at that point of time. Evolving, with the University of California large education abroad program, evolved a mechanism since the year 2000 to have course credit transferred to a parent institution. So a study abroad, as Dr. Sutton was talking about, at the University of Hyderabad was what we were doing. And we were also providing hostel. At that time, it was a small guest house, and now there's a full-fledged dorm or a hostel. And of course, some partner institutions also started host families, but there were largely three different modes in which students came. The first was the regular courses of the university, where students were taking courses in any department. For instance, if there was a course in sociology of gender, they would participate in that. Or if they would take a course in the political science department on India and world affairs, that is being taught to regular master's students in the university, they would take that. Or we have the, integrated master's program for undergraduate students who joined. So one of the popular courses was religion and society in India. So these are regular courses of the university where the study abroad student, the SIP student, sits in the class along with others. Then there were the exclusively designed courses, which were the SIP courses, of course, Indian languages, because Indian languages had to be exclusively tailored. So apart from Hindi, Telugu and Urdu, which are spoken in Hyderabad, we also have offered in the past course, any language that was demanded by the student, and there is expertise. We have a comparative literature department, so faculty have offered Bangla, Malayalam, whatever the expertise has been, Tamil, these were some of the courses that, of course, Sanskrit was also offered along with Urdu and Hindi and Telugu. But of course, these were either as regular courses. Some of our partners mandated an Indian language. California mandated it. Consortium like Council for International Educational Exchange, which was CIE, they also mandated this kind of a program. Then there was the independent or the directed study, which was a focused research topic. For instance, student said she wants to work on Dalit women and water rights. So one of my colleagues in sociology who does agrarian relations, he supervised that project. And then there was another one called Pearl Markets in Hyderabad. And there, course went on to actually become a international paper presentation. There are, over the years, non-credit courses on yoga, tabla, other kinds of vocal music, Bollywood dance, and these were negotiated by the students as well. Football field became very, very interesting. To give you a list of some of the partners of SIP, we started in '98 with the University of Pittsburgh, and I said the UCEAP in 2000. There was also, several other institutions like Dartmouth and Duke, which had very specific needs. The Dartmouth program was a 12-week program. One course was being taught by the faculty, and two courses were by their own faculty, one course, because it was a faculty-led program, and two courses were being taught by University of Hyderabad faculty. So there are these different models. Ohio State University did only a summer program. SUNY Plattsburgh did a women's studies summer program. That was one of the things that happened. The academic consortia that were there worked very well because they took care of the hand-holding and the administrative. So some of the big ones were CIEE, and the Nordic Center in India, with whom we continue to have a partnership, where every year there was a 4-week program, on contemporary India for a long time, and in the last couple of years, a specialized program in gender and society. So it really depends on the needs of the students, and this happens in their summer, and when our semester begins to open, which is July. We usually open mid-July, so this program starts when faculty come back from their vacations, mid-July to mid-August. The American Institute of Foreign Study and CIE both had offices at the University of Hyderabad. Of course, this was pre-pandemic, and all the challenges that Dr. Sutton talked about during the pandemic were also happening out here. There were several universities that sent students for semesters, and at the end of the semester, the University of Hyderabad campus community would look forward to student performances. As you can see, music, Hindi, everything was being showcased. The infrastructure there is an SIP building, which was, see, the Study in India program also augmented resources for the institution, and the entire resources were definitely something that added to the institution. It was literally a self-finance program without support, financial support from the university. So the Tagore International House was built in 2007, and it has space for 150 students and 12 faculty suites. I believe there is a new international hostel for faculty, for students and faculty as well. And then now we are part of an international project called Harmony, which also sponsored, this is a very new initiative, a Friends Tea House for local and international students, where one can actually interact at different levels. So yes, this is glimpses of the Tagore International House. A few years ago, a couple of years ago, actually, the Study in India program merged with the Office for International Affairs, which also had, with the IOE status of the university, there is also the mandate to increase internationalization. And there was actually an affiliation with the Ministry of Education, and ICCR, sends most of the students out here. There is also the NEP Vision for Internationalization, which is being clubbed with the Study in India program. But there is also now, more talks for dual degrees. The Faculty Development Program was another SIP initiative which ran from about 2003 to 6 with some partner institutions, and that of course fell through because the partner institutions did not have the funding. But time and again, such faculty development seminars always increase, because to talk about the top down and the bottom up, while the NEP may be a top down initiative, the faculty seminar is a bottom up initiative where you have a lot of faculty actually enrolling and trying to move in a particularly interesting direction. Over the years, we've had about 1,500 SIP students between 1998 to 2019. And both other students are those who come for the full program. And now we also have the Study in India, where 12 were admitted in the last couple of years. So other kinds of initiatives that have happened with SIP are the several Fulbright researchers and faculty initiatives, and the exchanges with Göttingen and Fryer. So what we have right now, I think, is a need to re-establish the SIP program. But let me just take you through, one actual forte, and that is a kind of tip for other institutions and universities, to say that you have to build on your strengths, and that's exactly what we did. And the flexibility in designing courses according to the student interest, that would never have happened without the cooperation of the faculty and the support from the higher administration as well. So it was a good mix of the top down and the bottom up that Susan Sutton was referring to a little earlier. So I think we have reached a time where the online is a big mode, but whether study abroad is something that can be done online is a question in itself. And I think we have several challenges ahead. But I can tell you that the institutionalization of SIP and becoming a model program around the country with UGC and others appreciating that has been very, very gratifying for us at the University of Hyderabad. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Madam, thank you so much. Can you go out of the screen share presentation? You can close it, ma'am. Yeah, thank you, madam, for such an insightful talk. and really giving us a good insight on the Study India program. As I remember, when our country started for the first time, our country embarked upon the journey of internationalization. Two important initiatives, policy initiatives, they played a very, very vital role. One is PIHEAD, Promotion of Indian Education, Higher Education Abroad. Second one was the Study India program. And these both programs, they were the significantly important cog of the internationalization wheel. And since then, I think these two activities have promoted Indian higher education abroad, and they have become instrumental in really revolutionizing the field of internationalization in higher education. So thank you so much for sharing such nice points, and the talk was certainly insightful. With this, I request our audience to be very, very brief. We can open it for a few questions we can ask from our keynote speaker, Dr. Sutton and Professor Rayapral. And I request all the audience, keeping the time in mind, please don't discuss anything. Don't go for the elaborative statement. Just if you seek any clarification, you have something to seek from the speakers, you can go for that. Now we open the floor for the discussion and for question only, but for few minutes, because we have overshot the time. We are receiving a question. I do not know to whom it is addressed, whether our first speaker or second speaker. The question is how to get foreign students beyond ICCR and few other scholarships. The university is a new one and is gaining on NI, National Institutional Ranking Framework, and other rankings. So the principal question is how to get foreign students beyond Indian Council for Cultural Relations.
I think that the ICCR website is pretty exhaustive, and once your university collaborates with ICCR, they list you as a partner, and the students make the choice about which university they want to go to. But I think your first step is to contact ICCR and get on board.
Any other who has anything to seek clarification from our speakers?
Dr. Pani, may I ask? I am Commodore Joshi, Controller of Examinations at Indian Maritime University, Chennai.
Oh, thank you, Professor Joshi. Please ask your question.
So, ma'am, very interesting talks by both of you. My question is, how do you motivate your faculty to take up more than they are supposed to give as per their normal engagement rules or regulations? Because clearly this aspect which you brought out requires much more effort from the faculty. So maybe the question can be answered in turn by both the speakers because it is relevant, I feel. So thank you.
I'm happy to start. And I'll speak also as a faculty member myself for many, many years. And I think there are some faculty who already want to do this work because it is connected to their research in one way or another. But you're talking about other faculty that you may, for whom this will be an add-on, as you just said, something additional to what they're doing. So for me, it is to make it less of an add-on and more of an integration into what they like to do. And that's, again, where the International Office has a role to play in supporting, making it possible for faculty to do this with the least additional work on the part of the faculty member. So the motivation will be starting where the faculty live. That's how we phrase it. So what is a particular faculty member interested in doing and teaching about or in doing research on? Oh, well, then how could that be enhanced by, for example, doing, let's say, a virtual class or class session with a colleague from another country. How could that's a simple starting point. And let's say it's mechanical engineering. I just made that up. It's not a logical subject for internationalization, but it should be. So how could a mechanical engineering class be enhanced by beaming in colleagues from another country to talk about mechanical engineering, or by arranging for students to do a small project together virtually? That's how you start. And it's simple, but the international office has to set it up so that it works. Then from there, you build the interest and go forward into further, more lengthy kinds of activities, at which point you've caught the faculty members' interest, and it also has refreshed their course, maybe improved their course possibly, and or they've met a colleague they want to do research with, and this is how to pull them in. Or you have a strong partnership that one field, let's say medicine, has with an institution in another country, and you talk to the medicine people. Well, what additional disciplines might be interested in what the kind of work you're doing, or might be useful to the work you're doing, and then invite them to come along to engage with the colleagues. In all of this, it helps if you can give the faculty members maybe release time from a course just to do the prep work, or possibly some assistance, student assistance or something like that, or a trip. Trips always work in my experience, but I think part of it is that you start slow and you build up, and then the faculty member finds that it's easier to teach the course with somebody from another country, or the research will be enhanced and it becomes motivation in and of itself.
Hello everyone. Good evening from Guru Ghasidas Central University. I am Professor Ramakrishna Pradhan. Can you hear me?
Sorry, sir. My question is still to be answered by Ms. Aparna. Maybe she can say something.
Yeah, actually, I think the incentive from the institution would help definitely, because it's a self-augmenting program, and that is one of the things. But the other is also, if the students are already coming for a course which is already being taught, then it's not so challenging. But definitely, as a faculty member myself, it is a commitment to the institution that is required by teachers. And when we started this in 1998, the then Vice Chancellor also said that it is a way in which social sciences, humanities, especially because these are the disciplines which attract a lot of foreign students, they also could augment resources for the university. But I think what would help if universities also recognize this as part of their regular course load. So those kinds of incentives, if they are institutionalized from the beginning by the administration, it would definitely go a long way.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, sir. This is Professor Pradhan from Guru Ghasidas Central University. My question with regard to this international collaboration is, it is okay for universities, those who are located in mainstream like Delhi, Bombay, Hyderabad or Chennai. But what about us, when we are located in Chhattisgarh in a peripheral area? What would be the mechanism to attract more international students? And what I think I would need the advice of two experts. What more can be done so that we can, draw the attention of international students to our universities?
I think if there is collaboration with a non-governmental agency for field work, development initiatives, so have particular programs that attract students who want to volunteer in certain areas, I think that would help. Internships, if you can arrange internships with NGOs, that would help as well.
I fully agree with what was just said. Absolutely. For US students, there has been a real push for all of our students to get more hands-on experiential learning opportunities, internships, volunteering with an NGO, anything like that, that enable students to be learning both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And in general, I think it's important to begin all of this work in terms of collaboration and attracting students by defining what it is that wherever you are located, whatever institution you are, what it is that you offer, that can offer, that is distinctive. I'm from New York City originally, and everyone knows what New York offers. But I would say that the most remote place in Idaho has something to offer as well. It's just a matter of defining it, spending the time to define what it is. Or to phrase this another way, often when I'm giving workshops in countries that say, well, we could never attract US students to come here, I say, well, let's back that up a little bit. What are some of the issues that you are concerned, that the community around here is concerned with? Oh, well, those are issues that US faculty and students would be interested in. It's a matter of making that clear, that you come here and you'll be able to look at these particular issues in this context, etc. But it is a matter of taking the time to define all of that and then publicizing it, finding the way to word it and to publicize it.
A part of the answer to the faculty member speaking from Guru Bhasidas is that before reaching out at international students, we need to revise our curriculum, making it at par with the international level, then creating international infrastructure also, and brand value, creating a brand name of the institution. There are small institutions, they are doing marvelously well because of their brand value and so many things. And this is the reason for which we are here today to discuss the anatomy of an international office and how to promote it. So ma'am, one question is directed to Dr. Susan. It has come from, I think, Madam Monisha Kadri from Kashmir. She says, how can, the question somewhere, 1 second. How can my university, which is based in Kashmir, begin international collaborations? Any leads and portals and network would help. This is directed to Dr. Susan.
Sure. So how to begin a collaboration, as I understand the question. And my response would be to begin with your own faculty initially and see if any faculty member in any way has a connection to, if it were in the United States, to any US institution, perhaps studied there, like Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, or doing research with a colleague at a US institution, and then pursue that particular existing connection, see if there's anything that can be done with that. But in terms of an overall portal, one does not exist. I wish there were one for US institutions. We have about 4,000 institutions, but there's no overall portal. So in the absence of an online portal for such a thing, I would say going to conferences is the next step. And the NAFSA conference, NAFSA, NAFSA, if you can afford to go there, is an excellent place to start networking. There will be at NAFSA thousands of representatives of institutions, all eager to meet and to pursue possibilities. So conferencing is the next step. And then another way is to look at any local international or multinational businesses that are in your area and see where they have connections. But anyway, work locally first, go to conferences, start talking, and just explore and go slowly. Sometimes there are also there will actually be events to bring potential partners together and to stay alert to that. And as a matter of fact, I happen to know that the Institute of International Education is thinking about having such an event in India in the next year or two, in which case it would bring representatives of a number of US universities to India in order to meet Indian institutions. So be alert to those possibilities as well. I hope I answered your question.
I have a question for Professor Aparna. Ma'am, what is the general, the proportion of the students who are coming from the outside, the foreign students who are of Indian origin, vis-a-vis the actual foreign students? Any, like rough idea, what is the percentage of the Indian origin students to the foreign students basically under the SIP program?
Well, we've had our share of Indian origin students, but they're definitely not the majority of them. Okay. In a semester, if there was a typical, say 25 students come in, there would be 2 or 3 at most. That is how it was. But sometimes there have been initiatives for Indian origin students to come and learn language. It has happened once or twice, along with, then it was called the Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs Ministry. They would have some program, but it has not happened consistently.
And any problems being faced by this foreign students in terms of their, like languages or in terms of the food, etc.,
See, that I think they adapt very well. When they come, they want something local, but sometimes when there is a problem, now we have enough variety and, ordering. That's not it was a question which one had to take seriously 20 years ago, definitely, but not now, especially in cities. I think things are easily available. I also want to add, because somebody had asked me about infrastructure, and that is something which credit transfers. So interinstitutional partnerships and MOUs become necessary when, and we take them seriously only when their host institution, their sending institution has accreditation for the credits that they have earned here. But otherwise it becomes a tourist program, academic tourism, and that's not taken seriously by anyone. So that is not a win-win situation. So when there are partnerships, it's always better.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Thank you so much.
The other infrastructure is the hostels, which I've already mentioned.
Yeah. Madam, this is Dr. Harsh. Just wanted to ask Professor Susan, from the perspective of a US institutes, what are the parameters they look at? Is an accreditation a very critical requirement from a US institute perspective? As Professor Aparna was just mentioning to this point, that the transfer of credits, you require a certain accredited, like a host institute also looks for that. So my question is, just to cut it short, if our institute is smaller in size, what are the parameters the US institutes will look at before sending their students to those institutes?
Sure.
4 or 5 critical parameters.
Yeah. Well, it all depends on whether the US institution is going to treat this as a credit-bearing opportunity or as a non-credit bearing but experiential learning opportunity that they accredit through their mechanism. So if it's a credit bearing where they would transfer your course over, then of course, the greater the degree to which you have been accredited or evaluated by external bodies, whatever those may be, the easier it's going to be. Absolutely. If that hasn't happened, it still doesn't rule you out. The US institution would do its own examination of the quality of the course. and then make a determination. The main concern is that the US institution will, in order to transfer the credit, will need at some point for our accrediting bodies to have some information about the quality of that course. But that can be provided in, as I said, in various ways. If you've already have external evaluations, that may be sufficient. If not, if they're interested, they can do their own evaluation and then have a file that they submit when it's time for them to be reaccredited, which happens every 10 years. But some are not interested in the credit bearing aspect of it. Some are interested in more in the experiential aspect of it. It all depends. I believe we heard some examples of US faculty-led programs, US faculty coming and bringing students who would to an institution for a period of time, in which case it would be the US institution that's giving the credit, but they would be collaborating with your faculty and students during that process. So that's another way to handle this.
I just want to add to that, particularly for the engineering programs, the All India Council of Technical Education in their approval handbook also has some recommendations as to what kind of collaborations are possible and what conditions have to be met for that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for Dr. Pankaj Mithil. I put it in the chat box, so you can answer to that, Dr. Pankaj. But apart from that, I have one question. How is there is also a circular from the All India Council of Technical Education regarding, it's called Education India portal, steps to strengthen the visa regime for foreign students studying in India. So does that work in tandem with what AIU is doing, or is it an independent work, or how does it go?
So AICT has set up this portal to help the university, because many of the times it is seen that if the students are wanting to come to Indian universities, or if the teachers are wanting to come, there's a lot of issue with regard to the visa problems. Okay. So that AICT is trying to do it at a central level. Even for ICCR is making use of AICT portal, so that if there are some visa issues, they can be taking care of it. Ours is an independent initiative. Ours is not, because you know that AIU is not a regulatory body. It is an advisory body, or it is sort of a friend of the university. So we keep on assisting in our own ways. So they are the regulatory body. So they are into this, that how to get into the visa things, or maybe FARA regulations, FEMA regulations, and all those things. So ours, INI, is an independent of that.
All right, thank you very much. And then the other question that I put in the chat box was that our universities comes down on the drop down list at AIU, but it says no data. Does that mean if we are registered?
You're talking about the collaboration portal?
Yeah, the AIU portal that I was mentioning.
So that means your university has not filled in its information.
But it's registered though.
It is registered as a AIU member university, but in AIU collaboration portal, they have not filled in the data for the departments or the facilities which you have, in which you want collaborations, national or international. Okay. So please fill in that data.
Okay. All right.
Also, an AIU handbook we are making, which will be available to universities world over. So that AIU handbook also, you must fill in the information. Otherwise, the next handbook will come after 4 years. So then you will miss the bus. Okay.
So now to add data to the existing registration, where do we go to do that?
AIU, you go to your page on the AIU portal and you will get it. Okay. I mean, every university has a login ID and password. So fill in that login ID password, go to your page, and then fill in the information.
Well, I don't know. I'm relatively new to this university, so I do not know whether we have access to this password or not. If I don't find it, I will seek your help later.
Sure, sure.
I have a small suggestion for Dr. Pankaj, Dr. Susan, and Dr. Parna. It may be very out of the box thinking. Can we create a platform? Can we create a platform of some, good teachers, teacher trainers, basically, from US, from India, from some of the European countries, etc., who can train the people from the teachers from the African countries or Latin American countries, something like that, There could be a platform of, some good, trainers, teacher trainers, who can in turn train, the people from this, developing or underdeveloped, like, like African or, maybe some of the Latin American countries, something like that. Is it possible?
See, right now we are into teacher training or rather capacity building of teachers through the 10 centers established by AIU in 10 different universities, where we are training the teachers on how to use the technology for teaching, learning, for assessment, evaluation, because that is something very big which is coming up, how to use the AI-led or AI using AI as an ally for the teaching, learning, or using it for assessment, evaluation. So those centers we have already opened, 10 we are open, 10 maybe will be opening next year also. So, but then helping the universities in other countries that we have not thought of. We don't have that type of bandwidth with us right now. So in future, if we have, we'll be doing it. Right now, we are doing it for the Indian universities and for our member universities.
Maybe we can think of having some of the collaboration with some of the US and other universities, and then we can create a platform in which we can train the people from other African, Latin American, all these countries basically. We can think it okay.
Yeah, it is always possible to triangulate and have more than two partners, if I understand what you're hinting at. But yeah, absolutely. So
thank you.
So, madam, most of our questions are settled now. So I can request you to go for the concluding remarks. After that, I will invite, I can see that Honorable Vice President of AIU, Professor G.D. Sharma is there. So first of all, I will request you to go share your concluding remarks. Then I will invite Professor Sharma, sir.
So thank you very much, Dr. Pani. Let me take this opportunity to thank Susan and Aparna. It was really an eye-opening presentation, and everybody, I am sure, I mean, we can see from the questions and the chat box messages that how much the talks have been relished, and I mean how they were so good that people have learned a lot from these talks. So thanks to both of you, and they were really elaborative, and both were covering the different aspects. So very elaborative talks, and for the rest of the participants who are there, I would like to say that this is just the beginning. So this is the first activity which we are doing through under INI, such a webinar. One we did earlier also, but this is the first major activity we are doing. And now every month you will see another activity of AIU under INI, because we are determined that we want to have more and more internationalization on Indian campuses. So for that only INI has been established. And for those who have not become the members of INI so far, please become a member, because if you are a member of INI and if we put it with you in our WhatsApp group, which we are going to create very shortly, you will be the beneficiary, because we'll be sharing the best practices between the universities. Or INI basically is hand-holding only. I mean, we have very good universities which are very good in internationalization, who have multiple international students, and there are universities who are wanting to do it but don't know how to do it. So this is a hand-holding learning from each other, collaborative learning, which we call. So we will be doing a lot in future also. Be with us, stay tuned, stay connected with the AIU, and we are determined to help each and every university in whatever aspect we can. So whether it is consultancy, we have also opened a consultancy portal, where if the universities are wanting consultancy with regard to say internationalization, or say SDG implementation, or NEP implementation, or accreditation, or NIF ranking, there also we are making a panel of consultants. So we'll be connecting the universities with the consultants, so that if you find any difficulty in any area, there is a consultant to help you. And of course, there will be some cost to it, but it will not be a commercial activity like most of the consultants are doing. So it will be a very authentic type of consultation. We are trying our best, and we bank upon all our universities, all our consultants, all our experts to help us in all our endeavors. So thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for joining, and keep joining in future also, because without your support, we cannot move forward. So your support is required. And once again, thanks Aparna, thanks Susan for a very wonderful talk. Thank you very much. Over to Dr. Pani.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Before I request our Honorable Vice President, Professor G.D. Sharma, let me acknowledge that among us, Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe Sahab, the former chairman, AICT, is also has logged on so to this program. So I gratefully acknowledge his presence in this August gathering. And Professor G.D. Sharma, in fact, an astute educational administrator, former Vice Chancellor of Central University of Nagaland, former Pro Vice Chancellor of Assam University of Silchar, and many more. And the list is really unending. I am privileged indeed to work with him when he was Pro Vice Chancellor of Assam University, and in several assignments I have been connected with him, and such a nice human being also. And thank you, sir, for being here today. May I request you to kindly share a few words of wisdom with the august members of this house. Honorable G.D. Sharma, sir. I think
Maybe he has left.
okay. So no problem, madam. Let's conclude the talk now, because
Yes.
really our schedule is quite behind the time we had already
Thank you.
decided. So let me begin with thanking for the first time at the outset. Let me begin with thanking to our both speakers, Madam Susan Sutton and Dr. Aparna Raiprol. Since long we have been chasing them, and they have given their consent and such a beautiful and insightful points, and especially Dr. Sutton for this might be some odd timing because he's US based. Sometimes when we invite the speakers or the guests from outside, we always keep it in mind that their time doesn't fall in an odd hour. So madam, thank you so much. Wonderful sharing your points, and next in future activities. And I think we will be bothering a little bit, and our heartfelt gratitude to you. Thank you very much for your consent and being on board today. Of course, Dr. Aparna Raiprol, thank you very much, madam, for speaking an elaborative account on the Study India program. And thank you so much for, in fact, your consent and agreeing to be part of this program. Of course, our Secretary General, madam, very vibrant, dynamic, and thank you, madam, for really taking the leadership initiative and directing us, instructing us to really taking up the programs that will benefit all of our faculty members, especially those who are at the helm of affairs of dealing with internationalization in higher education in our universities. Then our delegates, of course, without you, the show will lose its charm and color. And a massive number of delegates, I think the number went up to 103, 105 around, and it was a good show, good gathering. So we are grateful to each one of our participants, delegates, that constitutes the directors of international offices of various universities, faculty members, our senior administrative functionaries, and the vice chancellors. We are grateful indeed to each one of them. One person who was the pivotal axis of this program, inviting our both resource persons, she was supposed to undertake this major responsibility of introducing our speakers, whose role I have undertaken. That is Dr. Diya Dutt. Dr. Diya Dutt, earlier, she was the deputy director, she superannuated as deputy director from United States Educational Foundation of India. Now, presently, she is helping us, she is supporting us in many of our internationalization G20 activities as the advisor of Association of Indian Universities. Madam Dr. Diya Dutt, I think you are logged on, and I acknowledge your presence. I convey my heartfelt gratitude to you for all sort of help, and especially your personal touch of dealing with the things and making this program a grand success. With this, once again, thanking you all, especially to my colleague, Dr. Sandeep, Sushil, and in the Secretary General's office, our Satyabalji, and many people, Vijender, many people are there, those who are instrumental in facilitating this activity. We are grateful to each one of them. Thank you so much, everybody. Jai Hind. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks once again. Thanks, Susan, and thanks, Aparna, and thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
And one of our colleague, Dr. Usha, also deserves our accolade. Thank you so much. Shall we close this meeting, ma'am?
Thank you, sir.